On the agenda tonight, we're going to be taking a look at the Rolling Stones' new song called Angry. Hello, Phil here from Wings of Pegasus and welcome to another analysis video. If you enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. So this one's been all over the place on social media and YouTube, and of course the Rolling Stones have that effect, especially when they're releasing a new song. So we're going to be jumping into this, addressing the whole auto-tune pitch correction thing, but just breaking it down as well and see what's going on with it. So as always, there's a link in the description below if you guys want to watch the video and listen to the song the whole way through without me interrupting it. We are going to be jumping into just the audio here because we don't want to be distracted, but I have run the vocals through the pitch monitoring software and isolated them so that we can have a look at it and see what we can see. But let's jump into it. So I'm going to jump in here because I really like the start to this song, just this stripped back drum sound that we get. And then the way that, I'm not going to be talking about the production in this video, but the way that the drums just then sit in the mix. Obviously to begin with, they're up front because we don't have any other instrumentation going on, and the bass takes a little bit of time to come in as well. So you're just hit with this quality drum sound, and it's not overproduced at all. I'm going to take it back. Have a listen.
One, two, one, two, three.
Listening to that drum kit, obviously there's a bit of reverb on the sound to, sit it in the mix, but, it's pretty much untouched. It just sounds like a great kit. And it's almost borderline underproduced, but that's the point. That's exactly the kind of sound you want. And this is the great thing about production, and sometimes the bad thing about production, is that you can have a song that doesn't have the production that it needs, but this kind of song needs this kind of production. It is an art form. But getting this sound so spot on, and then as we go forwards, when you're now listening to the drums, you see how now obviously we're still aware of that snare, but the vocal is the focus. Everything is now pushed back. That drum kit is just in that mix perfectly, and the guitars are just above that drum kit. If you're seeing it as Mick's voice being right in your face, we've then got the guitars behind that, just in front of, effectively standing in front of a drum kit. And this is what you get a sense of with this particular mix. It's kept that live performance vibe to it by the way it's been produced and the way that we've got those layers. So yeah, like I said, we're not going to talk about that. You could talk about that for years, but we are going to be just having a listen to Mick's vocal, the isolated vocal. Let's have a listen.
Don't get angry with me. I never caused you no pain.
I mean, straight off the bat, you can hear that we now have a very processed sound to Mick's voice. And when I say that, I mean that, you know, it's got that telephone quality to it when you take out all the bottom end so that it sounds like a telephone call, because that's what happens when you're on the phone with somebody. You don't get any bass, you don't get any of that bottom end. So all of that's been taken out. It also sounds like it's almost overdriven with the vocal as well, like a distortion that has been put through, only ever so slightly. You know, it's really subtle, but because it is a really produced and processed sound, it means that the processing going on with the vocal isn't as noticeable. And you know, obviously, I think if you're expecting the Rolling Stones to release a song nowadays that hasn't been pitch corrected, then you're living in a dream world, because that is the industry. And one thing about the Rolling Stones is that they've stayed relevant. I mean, there's no way that you can argue against that, considering the amount of sales that they continue to have, and you know, their live performances and how sought after tickets are for those, that they are still current. And this is part of it. It's still using the technology that everybody else is using, that all the younger bands, all the younger singers are using pitch correction. So yeah, obviously Mick's going to be using that as well, because it gives it that modern sound. It's a processed vocal just because of what we've got on the vocal without the pitch correction. But then once you add in the pitch correction, that extra processing puts it into that modern sound place, because all of these notes are now going to be pulled directly over these lines. We will talk about it more in a second, but listen on.
I won't be angry with you.
And because we have isolated the vocal and run it through the pitch monitoring software, we can see the E4 snap to the line, the D sharp 4 snap to the line, down here the B3 snap to the line. So this has been really heavily edited. It's just been pulled over these lines. It's not auto-tune, because auto-tune wouldn't have as much of a natural sound to it, but pitch correction has come so far. It's been intentionally heavy with the use of pitch correction, in that when we don't have any microtones going on here being slightly sharp, slightly flat, when we've got these held notes. Production on this has been intentionally pulled to 440 hertz tuning. That's what we're looking at here, to get this modern sound to it. Let's continue.
But I can't see straight. Yeah.
You will notice now and again we get a bit of mixed expression in the vocal, and this is so important for the overall sound, because you want it to sound modern. It's got to. You can't release something now where Mick's vocal is just kind of all over the place, and it would just sound too different to the modern day music, the modern day industry. So you need pitch correction on there as an overall sound, but you still want to keep the fundamental personality of the vocalist. And Mick isn't a singer who is going to be, nobody is, singing on these lines all the time, because that's just modern technology. But Mick isn't the kind of singer that is going to be going, you know, na 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 na, and hitting notes like that live. It's never going to happen. So you need to keep an element of that in the recording to still make it authentic, and you know, still make it Mick's voice that you're listening to. But let's keep going.
As and wait for a month, the rivers run dry. We have that many love, and I wanna know why.
And there'll be particular spaces where there's a held note, like here on the E4, and you can hear the processing going on, but not just of the effects on the voice, but the correction of pitch, because it always has a slightly different sound to it, especially because it's just nailed on at 440 hertz. Something that happens with Mick's voice is that he'll hit a note and then he'll just drift sharp, and we get a great example of that a little bit later on. Let me just take it back. See, there it is. Let's have a listen to this.
Can't take any more.
there. I mean, that D4, we can hear now what's called microtones going sharp, hitting effectively, frequencies or percentages of notes that aren't at 440 hertz tuning, they're slightly higher. So this expression in Mick's voice, like I've said, you need this, because if this was being snapped to a line, then we'd lose the expression throughout the whole song. Most of this song is heavily pitch corrected, but we just got this tiny bit of Mick left in here, which is great. And yet again, those previous phrases, because we've got more held notes, just hitting the same notes over and over again, it does sound a little bit more noticeably processed.
She's in the club, my mouth's getting sore, I can't take anymore.
And again, it's that same E4, because it's just a vowel sound, it's always going to stand out a little bit from that point of view of just being directly over a line.
Oh, why you angry with me?
And again, here, totally unpitch corrected. So, you can hear it straight away. We can see that he's between notes here. But it's interesting as well how this really demonstrates the expression that's achieved by not being perfectly tuned. When you're thinking about the lyrical content as well, Mick is saying this, but he's kind of almost shouting, he's making a point. There's aggression effectively in what he's saying, and that aggression doesn't go hand in hand with perfect, pitch, or being pitch perfect. I've said before that, being a pitch perfect is different to perfect pitch. Perfect pitch is being able to hear a note and be able to name it with no reference. But listen again.
You angry with me?
It's like, yeah, go with me. There's nothing really in there. There's a reference to the note because we are close to it. Na, na, na. That's where we know the note is, but Mick's still got all of his expression in there.
Why you angry? Voices keep echoing, calling out my name.
And then obviously, because it's isolated, it's going to stand out more. But now this is all really pitch corrected, backing vocals, lead vocal as well. I mean, you can even see where it's picked up a little bit of a vocal, just bang on the C sharp 4.
Hear the rain keep beating on my window pane. I hear a melody ringing in my brain. You can keep the memories, don't have to be ashamed. Don't get angry with me.
Okay, I think we're going to have to get the guitar out. So as I always say, this isn't going to be an instructional video, but I mean, it's a relatively simple song. We've only got a few chords. We're starting out with what sounds like this B and, that kind of thing. There's a couple of ways that you could approach that. I mean, I'm kind of stretching over, supplying the root note with my little finger. You can just play it with your first finger, playing your A shape and playing your fill in there, but it sounds more like we've got that root note going on into E. Exactly the same shape, just moving it up, bringing that little finger over. So just having a quick listen to the chorus. Again, really straightforward, just A, stop, and then going to be back into the verse. So let's jump into the solo, see what's going on. And I mean, really simple, subtle start. And I think we had a pick, maybe pick, and then a little slide up. Maybe more like that, kind of just going to nothing. We're not going to be breaking it down in detail, but just getting the vibe. And you know, kind of sliding up, you know, 5 to 7, pull off down to 3. By the way, we're in B minor here, mostly kind of B minor pentatonic. You know, that shape, if you want to kind of work your way through it. But all of this kind of, you know, let's listen on. And there, that. Again. You know, still, same shape. And I love that repeat. And then kind of going back to it again. Tiny bits of expression. Just tweaking that first finger, going slightly sharp. Not as far as the semitone, but just those microtones. Just a tiny bit of expression getting towards, you know, you'll see them and hear them all over the place. Just in there, before the note finishes. It's like a tweak palm mute to cut it off. Again, you know, really cool bluesy line there. Same thing. You know, same shape here. And, you know, take notice of those tiny pinches. You know. And this is the way, yeah, we kind of, you can kind of hear little bits of fills going on as well now. So these are just fills in, you know, B major, even though in classic blues we've got that minor pentatonic shape and blues scale that's being used, but we're fundamentally, you know, in that major shape, which is, you know, our major fill down here. So yeah, I mean, it's cool to listen to it. Like I said, it's not going to be an instructional video, but it's the kind of thing that if you are wanting to play this kind of thing yourself, knowing the shapes and knowing about these little tricks of just doing little pinches on notes and all those kinds of things. And I mean, this is really cool here. Look at, I wonder if we, well, you know, I can look at my guitar and find out exactly where that note was, is the E4. But more importantly, we were sharp of the E4. So our E4 is here, or your high E string, but the E4 wasn't happening there. It was happening there, slightly sharp. Again, just a different expression. I mean, the vocal pitch monitor picked up that note. It was being played by the guitar though. Let's have a listen again. You can hear straight away, rather than starting there, we are slightly sharp, but once you get that vibrato going, and of course it resolves back to the B, but that starting it sharp just gives it something slightly different. You know, again, this is the thing that if the guitar had been pitch corrected, I mean, it's not exactly what I would call what you do to something when you're changing it. You've just changed it, because correcting it, that's a matter of opinion. That's subjective, whether you think it's better or not, whether it was wrong in the first place. But this is the kind of thing that would have been removed if they started pitch correcting guitars, which they haven't done yet, or at least not to my knowledge. It's just, you know, a great song because of its simplicity and the fact that it has their footprint on it. It's not as if they've been told to write something that's out of their comfort zone. You know, it's just exactly what you expect a Rolling Stones song to sound like, with modern technology, with pitch correction. It's interesting for that point of view. I mean, the video is, I mean, let's face it, the video is just rock and roll video 101, as they say in the USA, which is, you know, get a female and dress her a certain way and focus mostly on that, and then have this kind of billboard thing going on as well. So, I mean, this was the case. I mean, actually, it's even more the case now when you look at YouTube and, you know, certain women playing the guitar, dressing a particular way. That's just what sells. And, you know, generally those kinds of channels get millions of views just on videos where, you know, the playing might not actually be technically that good, but it's not really about the playing. And this is why with the Rolling Stones, it is the kind of video that you expect as well, because it's just rock and roll. It's just, like I said, rock and roll 101. If you're going to do a video, as it was back with MTV, you had to do a video that had that side of it. And certainly in the 80s, you know, it was rife with videos of that kind of thing, you know, and bands like Whitesnake, you know, and Guns N' Roses and all that kind of stuff was all about having a female focal point, having the music along with that, because then, you know, you're going to get the guys watching it because of the female. Even maybe people who didn't like the band might still watch the video. So yeah, for them it's still getting eyes on their video and therefore ears on their music. But yeah, you can certainly say that about this video, but we don't have any distractions, just focusing on the music here. And there we have it. And you can hear that little bit of delay on the guitar. I'm not sure whether they did that just at the end or if it's on the sound the whole time. But I'd say this, even though obviously, I mean, it's a little bit distorted, this kind of... I'd say it's actually relatively close to that. So yeah, fair amount of distortion on there. So, I mean, in a nutshell, I really enjoy the song because they've kept enough of that DNA in the sound that listening to this, you know it's Mick Jagger, you know it's the Rolling Stones. You also know it's pitch corrected. Like this is the first thing I heard, but they've still kept tiny bits in there that is just Mick's voice and allowing it to go where it goes. And also, obviously, the guitars are always going to have a particular sound because of, I mean, that side of it. It's having unique guitar players that don't overplay, aren't overly technical, but just do what they do. And because that part of it hasn't been edited, you still get that authentic sound to the rhythm guitar and especially the lead guitar. So yeah, enjoyed this one, and something very up to date as it's only been released recently. But again, as always, let me know what you guys think and keep the suggestions and requests coming in the comment section below for future videos. If you did enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys at the next one. Rock!